Hey guys, welcome to the Female Athlete Inner Circle. This is going live for August 2018 we're going to be talking about soccer training, preseason for high school, college, and I have my two experts on the call for everything soccer. So Allison and Erica, welcome to the call.
Thanks for having us, Jen.
Hi, thank you, Jen.
So you guys have been in the Female Athlete Inner Circle. You're kind of my go-to experts for soccer. So if people missed your interviews that are already in the Inner Circle, let's do a brief kind of bio of both of you. Allison, we'll start with you. Tell everyone about yourself.
Cool. My name's Allison. I have been in soccer my entire life. Grew up played Division I college soccer at George Mason University. Played a little semi-pro after for a few years. And before I started my coaching career, I was at Mizzou for a hot second, and then was at 2 years at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. And then since 2009, I was at Seattle University. So been in the Division I game for a while. And I had this kind of hybrid role at Seattle U where I was a strength coach and on the field, on the coaching staff, so they weren't separate. So I was doing kind of double duty, coaching defenders out on the field, doing their fitness and their strength kind of all together.
Nice. So as you guys that are listening, she knows the game of soccer. She's an expert. So Erica, what about you? Let's learn about you.
Yeah, so I played soccer my whole life, probably started when I was age 5, and I grew up in Maryland. Played college at Johns Hopkins University, and then after that I played in Brazil and then semi-pro in the States for a few years, and I've been coaching for about 6 years as a technical trainer and a performance coach in the private sector.
Nice. So I like that we have kind of different takes on this because we have some D1 experience, we have D3, and then you guys kind of play semi-professional. So right now it's in the summer, preseason soccer. What would be your recommendations, your advice we'll start with like kind of athletes, middle school, high school, and then we'll kind of turn it to college. What would be your advice for these athletes to be doing right now to be preparing for the season when they go back?
Erica, I'll let you
Okay.
jump in. I'll let Erica jump in on the high school. She tends to focus a little bit more on that age group.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, it's a good question. I would say they should have been in training for about a month or two by now. If they start at this point and preseason's coming in a month, then I don't know how much they'd be able to get out of it. Off-season training it should be a smooth transition into preseason, so the focus should be more strength, and then as you move into preseason, more like power-based, and then maybe multi-directional agility and more playing based. But it's off-season. Preseason is a long month process. It's more than a month. For high school athletes, we start end of May, and then we're going until mid-August, which is when the fall season starts out here.
Nice. So before we get to the college, I want to ask you one thing. So I know for us, right outside of Boston, I'm pretty confident to say the preseason starts like August 23rd, August 24th. So the end of August. I know from just working with soccer players and just female athletes that I'd say 90% of them do not do their strength and conditioning or any type of program they're getting. And just, again, my sport was basketball, but when I look at these soccer programs, it's just the running. They want them to run time 2 miles. They got to run like the shuttles. So like, what would your advice be right now? If they've done nothing and they're going to start, let's say the beginning of August and they got 3 weeks, what would be your advice? Other than they shouldn't have done that, but it already
any strength training is going to be good, but if they're starting now, it needs to be at minimum 3 times a week, and it's got to be attacking the entire body. We could say, yeah, certain athletes need more hip strengthening, but I think just all around, just strengthening the hamstrings, the quads, lateral, transverse strength. So being able to work in all planes of motion, as well as upper body and getting their posture better. So I think bringing that 3 times a week starting now, it won't hurt. It'll help them. And then as far as the running, I'm trying to move coaches out here away from the long distance 2-mile tests, just because, yeah, we can say players cover 5 to 7 miles in a game, but most of that is going to be high intensity runs and then recovering. So I want them, when they're training with me or when they're doing a strength and conditioning program, they're reaching a higher intensity than the game. Otherwise, they're not going to be prepared for the demands of the game.
Got it. It's great advice. All right, Allison. So if we're talking college, I don't even know, when are these girls probably are already on campus doing some sort of training, or if they're not, when are they going to college?
So it really is kind of split division. At least I can speak towards Division I soccer. A lot of the top programs are bringing their athletes back on campus to work with that strength and conditioning coach. That wasn't my experience. Our girls always went away for summer. They're handed their summer conditioning packet and expected just to do it. And I'd say probably for the majority of women's soccer players, that's more of the experience where you're handed a packet and expected to do it. I think there's a lot of fear around fitness tests, and that's where people get really hung up on their strength and conditioning over the summer, where they're only training for the 120 tests or the 300-yard shuttles or the mile. And so you end up doing that type of training only, and you're missing out on a huge preparation piece to get ready to play soccer. And I think that's what's really missed. By the time you hit your summer program and so for us, August, like that first week in August, you gotta be ready to go. You should have already done your base training for strength. You should really be working on, like Erica talked about, the hard change of direction. I think a lot of deceleration, lateral movement, because you have to prepare for the volume that you're going to be doing. Preseason is like double day. I mean, it's still kind of crazy, and it's packed into like 2 weeks. You're doing an insane amount of volume. And if your body can't handle that type of load, you're going to pick up muscle injuries. So you have to be able to sustain that load for those 2 weeks. And if somebody comes in super undertrained and they don't have the strength base and they don't have the aerobic base, you're never going to be able to recover from the type of volume that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's well said. I mean, I know for me, we had to run a time 1.5 miles for basketball.
Yeah.
And no joke, 2 of us passed the test the first time we did it going into the preseason. And my old college coach is now at is at Buffalo, and their program's rising. And I know they just did the time mile because she posted it on Facebook. So, I mean, I had a packet that was this thick, and I did it, but I was fortunate. Like I worked camps. I was a coach in the summer for basketball. Some of these kids, like, they have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Like, trying to attack their packet that is, as you said, it's very overwhelming. You're worried about doing this shuttle run, this conditioning. What would be your advice for the kids, like, to try to break down that packet, and what would you say is kind of the most important thing they focus on?
To me, when I'm handing over this packet and I don't have eyes on my athletes anymore, I tell them, don't overtrain. Mm-hmm. If you do nothing in like, you've got to strength train. So that's like the biggest piece. The first thing to go is absolutely the running piece. And I'm sure some coaches are like, what? But here's the thing. When you come to me in August, if you're super strong, I can get you fit. You can play your way into fitness. Again, there's a lot of nuance there. That's not just like, oh, don't run over the summer. I'm not saying that. But a lot of these kids are seeing awesome trainers like Erica, or they're playing on teams, or they're doing other stuff. And instead of doing everything in this packet, do the strength training piece, play on your team, train with your soccer team, and then show up and you've got this soccer base and you're super strong. So to me, the first thing to go from those packets are like doing the 300-yard shuttles and the timed mile and like the treadmill runs. Like, that's the first thing to go.
Got it. Okay, Erica, would you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think like the only time we can really get in strength training for athletes who are in college and even the high school and middle school athletes I work with is the summer season. Soccer is a year-round sport. I mean, we're going in the fall. They got indoor in the winter, and then spring is pretty heavy time for soccer. So it's like, when are we going to do our strength training? And that's summer. And I think strength training can help players get better at those long distance runs. It can help them get better at their sprints and their high intensity interval runs. And I mean, just from the injury prevention standpoint, when else are we going to attack this whole ACL epidemic? It's funny because parents are complaining, oh my gosh, like so-and-so is blowing out her ACL. And I'm just like, well, when are we going to X the skills camps in the summer? And when are we going to do something about this problem? Like, are the skills camps focusing on strength? Are they helping prevent injury? No, you're learning technical skills. That's not going to help anyone. So I just really try to reinforce to parents, it's okay to take a break from the skills. They're not going to lose that. That stuff at this age and this level, it should be second nature. Whereas strength training at this age, we should be improving and we should be focusing on it just because of being able to withstand the load in preseason and be ready for the fall.
All right, we'll touch on the ACL in 1 second, but I have a question off both of you guys, what you said. So, I mean, I played basketball, and for the most part, we did play year-round. So, soccer right now, if you have an athlete we'll start with high school, like, is playing in the fall, and then they're on some sort of travel team, and then in the summer, I have no idea what their spring or summer, what are they doing? What would be your recommendation for, like, a girl that we know is good at soccer, is probably going to play in college? Like, what's the recommendation? Just let them keep playing year-round? Like, how do they take a break without, pissing off a club team or missing out on an opportunity? Like, what would be your advice on that?
Well, it's gotten a little bit better. I know a lot of club coaches, especially in the East Coast in our area, they're giving the month of June and July off. And a lot of girls they're totally okay with that. And I recommend to my top high school players, if you do want to get touches in, go play pickup with the neighbors, have fun, play small-sided, get in that thinking component, which kind of prepares them for preseason and the playing load, but it's not overkill on the strength training, and they're able to focus more on the strength and power stuff.
Nice. So going to college, so like I played Division I basketball, so I know like right now, I know like the big time schools, like they're already at the schools doing their preseason stuff, but what's your advice for soccer? I mean, they play in the fall. I'm sure they take probably 2 weeks off, and they're back in like kind of postseason, and they're probably already at school right now. What would be your advice, Allison, to kind of give them a break, but also like not pissing off their college coach? I mean, most of these girls are on scholarship. How to kind of just work everything in?
We schedule that in. If you're not on a really good plan, you're not looking at your periodization over the entire year, then you're doing your athletes a huge disservice. So you need to be planning in your work, planning in your rest, looking at deload weeks. I would be asking a ton of questions amongst your staff. And I don't, again, like it's hard because as an athlete, I'm not like, when's my rest week and when's my deload week? You're kind of just, going along doing what your coach tells you. But if you're super tired all the time, you need to start asking questions and be in tune with your body. That is a sure sign that you are overtrained. So we would sit down as a coaching staff, look at our season and plan out even in season, which is like 2, maybe 3 months long, when our deload weeks were. We would have games on Friday, Sunday, and here we are, we're doing just some light technical work throughout the week, but that was our planned deload week, because you cannot keep going harder and harder and harder and harder and harder all season. It has to be on this wave continuum. And so you really have to plan those deload weeks and rest periods. And every athlete is different. So it's the devil's in the details. You got to plan. You got to have a plan. You can't just wing it.
I think again, I play D1. I know with D1, when the season actually starts, we have to get 1 day off. We do nothing.
Yeah, but that's NCAA rules.
Yeah, when we're there in winter, like the winter break when everyone else is home. Now, this was in 99, 2003. I don't know if the rules have changed. You didn't need to break. You could go for 30 days straight, and I'm pretty confident we went for 30 days straight. And 1 year during my college team, we literally had 6 healthy girls. So we couldn't even play pickup. We were actually pulling in soccer players that were willing to just run up and down the court with us. So again, I get it. It's, it's a hard game to play, but we're seeing now more than ever. I mean, you both know this. The ACL injuries are going up with how people think we're smarter. We know more about training. Well, then why are we tearing ACLs? Every year I think it increases by like 3% in the females. So Erica, you touched on it a little bit earlier, kind of the ACL epidemic. So I would love to know your thoughts on it, and kind of what would your advice, what you're seeing would help try to kind of like hinder all the non-contact ACLs we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. I like to keep it simple, just focusing on total body strength, proper landing mechanics, how to change direction safely, and then just going beyond the weight room, talking about hydration and sleep and regulating stress. And even though I'm in the private sector and working with a lot of middle and high school athletes, I'm trying to do more of that as a coach, only because I don't really have access to the fatigue monitoring technology, and I definitely think it's valuable. But I just try to keep open communication with my athletes. When should we back off, or when can we go a little harder? So I think strength training and then just communicating all those other factors that are going on outside of the weight room.
Got it. Great advice. Allison, what do you got?
Kind of to piggyback what Erica was saying, managing player fatigue is everything. You obviously have to have a really great strength foundation. You have to be fit. Those things help. But if you're not managing fatigue, injuries are bound to happen. And for females, the ACL is a big one. For college, we used just a simple RPE, rate of perceived exertion. And this can be like on your phone, on an app. There's so many things out there of how are you feeling? How many hours of sleep did you get? Just getting that feedback from your players can be super helpful. We also used HRV, which is heart rate variability. That can also be a really great indicator of how fatigued your players are. Because again, they're not all just in this one little box. You might have a player that's super resilient. That player that runs for like 90 minutes and never gets tired. Hated her. And you have the player right? But you're going to have players that fall in different buckets. And if you're not managing those different archetypes of athletes, again, ACLs around the corner. So those two things were super helpful for me in the college, just using a simple RPE, which everybody can do. And then we used heart rate variability. There's apps, and there's a lot of really cool technology that can help you manage player fatigue.
Yeah. One of the other interviews we're releasing in August for the Inner Circle is a woman out in San Diego who is a physical therapist, but has written these ACL programs, and she's the one that I kind of get all my stats from. And I use the word strength training because I think that's just like the common word we all use, but I'm trying to go more towards like sports performance, because then we're talking about, yes, strength training, but then we're talking about how to land, how to decelerate. We're talking about the hydration. We're talking about the recovery, the nutrition. So it's kind of encompassing all that. And I think when people hear strength training, they just think that we're deadlifting, we're squatting, and we're bench pressing a car, as one said to me in Facebook. So no, that's some great advice. So we touched on a lot the last like 20 plus minutes. So to kind of wrap up this, Erica, what would be your recommendations, coaches or, all the soccer athletes out there, just to be able to be successful, stay injury-free with the upcoming soccer season coming up?
Well, in terms of off season, definitely get started early. Off season needs to be at least a 3-month process, just because, with kids and youth athletes, strength training's got to be more gradual. So maybe I'll have a beginner in the summer. I want them starting in month 1 and going for 3 months, so I can really like build them up and assimilate them into the environment. And then for in-season training, just again, open communication, managing fatigue. It's not just about who's the most resilient, but there's so many other factors that go into preventing injury. So I think even team coaches can just talk to their players about their sleep quality, their stress. Maybe they have to back off from a certain drill at practice, like an intense 1v1 drill, or maybe they can do the technical warm-up. So just really having open communication and just collaborating with performance coaches in the area and seeing how they can warm up their team in a healthy way, or if they can do like hip activation or core activation work in season. So I think just collaborating and communicating is key.
That's great advice. All right, Allison. So we're talking more for you for college, maybe even like semi-professional advices for coaches or athletes.
I think trying to treat each athlete as an individual, and you'll find that athletes kind of fall into different buckets, learning what that athlete really needs to make them tick, making sure, like Erica said, that strength training piece, that base is there, focusing really, really hard on having that great base. And then as you get closer and closer to preseason, making sure you're working on max speed, so that when you get to your preseason and you're handling a ton of volume, your body doesn't freak out with all the change of direction, lateral, high speed running. So making sure that you're really getting that top end work in before preseason hits.
Nice. That is great advice. Again, for everyone, this is going to be releasing like right before kind of like preseason soccer starts. So if you guys want to find more about them, have a soccer conversation, or want to train with them, Erica, where can everyone find you?
My website, www.ericasuter.com, and my Instagram, which is Fit Soccer Queen.
Great. And Allison, where can they find you?
I'm hanging out over on Instagram a ton. I'm at Allison Tenney. And my website is AllisonTenneyFitness.com.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Obviously, we will continue the conversation probably when soccer is full in season. We'll have another conversation to give advice to everyone on how to manage the in season. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.